fashion show. I don't remember what it was. It might have been Jenny or something like that in Milan. And we were doing that fashion show backstage, and you came up to me right when I was about to walk out, and you said something. And it's so funny because it was so surreal at the time when you said it. I didn't think that you could actually say something like that.
What did I say?
You said something like, "You'll never be me, don't ever think that you'll be me," and something like that.
I said that? It's a direct character assassination. I've always said that I'm not a saint, that I am a work in progress, but I will not be held hostage by my past. What he's done is indefensible. And when I heard of what he'd done, it sickened me to my stomach, just like everybody else. Because I've had my fair share of predators, and thank God that I had good people around me that protected me from this. I mean, right now I stand with the victims. I can't, they're scarred for life. For life. I've rubbed shoulders with hundreds of thousands of people.
I had a very painful early days in Paris. As much as I was booking every single fashion show, people didn't know I was going home at night crying my eyes out because the woman that I was looking up to seemed like she just didn't want me to be there and was doing everything in her power to make me go away. And I didn't understand that as a young girl. Like, why is she doing this? This is so evil. This is so awful.
It's because I was so new and young. You said, "I have to ask you something. Do they try to make you look like me?"
Right.
And I said, I don't know about so much now, but in LA, yeah, they really did with the little short black wigs
that.
and
You
stuff.
told me that, yeah,
yes.
I remember.
And Naomi, you got up, pushed me away and said, "Yeah, I thought so." And you turned.
I did.
You went from the sweetest woman that was giving me vitamins to someone that terrified me on that trip.
Oh my God.
And
understandable, I can
I
understand.
was told on that trip that I was sent home because you don't want me there anymore. So I
No,
didn't
that's
finish
not
that trip.
true.
That's what I was told.
I don't have the power that I win. He's really like my brother. He is so protective of me, and I'm the same for him. He is the kindest, the loyal, generous. We always say each other, we love each other. I'm going to see him this weekend. I'm going out west. And I'm so proud of Puff.
You and Puffy are very close.
Very.
What if one of the most powerful supermodels in the world wasn't just walking runways, but moving pieces behind the scenes in circles most of us will never see? The internet has latched onto a theory that refuses to die, that Naomi Campbell isn't just fashion royalty, but a quiet gatekeeper to the global elite. Private islands, billionaire boyfriends, presidential-level guest lists, and now, resurface connections to Jeffrey Epstein that have people asking uncomfortable questions. But the twist? The name unexpectedly echoing through this conversation is Tyra Banks. And if you know the history between those two, you already know this isn't surface-level drama. There are celebrities who are famous, and then there are celebrities who feel untouchable. Naomi Campbell has always existed in that second category. She isn't just a supermodel. She's mythology wrapped in couture. For over 3 decades, she has moved through fashion capitals like royalty, her presence alone capable of shifting the energy of an entire room. But beyond the runways and flashbulbs lies something even more fascinating, the exclusivity of her private world. Whispers about secluded properties have only deepened the mystique. One of the most talked about is the futuristic eco-mansion allegedly designed in the shape of the Eye of Horus on Turkey's Sidur Island, reportedly linked to her former billionaire partner Vladislav Dorinin. Whether architectural symbolism or simply avant-garde design, the shape alone has fueled years of online speculation. Add to that her luxury villa in Malindi, Kenya, a coastal retreat where high-profile guests have reportedly come and gone for decades, and the picture becomes cinematic. Remote locations, elite guest lists, privacy guarded by wealth and influence. None of this proves anything sinister. Ultra-wealthy people often own extraordinary homes in extraordinary places. But here's where intrigue creeps in. When a celebrity's lifestyle is this inaccessible, imagination fills the gaps. The rarer the access, the louder the speculation. And in Naomi's case, her proximity to billionaires, world leaders, and cultural power players has only amplified that sense that she operates in rarefied air, a world few outsiders ever truly see. That mystique, once simply glamorous, has now collided with something far heavier. The conversation shifted dramatically when court documents connected Naomi to Jeffrey Epstein, not as an accused accomplice, but as someone who had moved within overlapping social circles. By Naomi's own account, she was introduced to Epstein in 2001 by her then-partner, Italian businessman Flavio Briatore, during her 31st birthday celebration. Records later revealed contact between Naomi and Epstein spanning from 2001 to 2016. Emails and flight logs reference social events, travel coordination, and at least one instance where she requested use of his jet. In 2010, 2 years after Epstein's conviction in Florida, Epstein was reportedly invited by Dornan to join a Nile boat trip in Egypt alongside Naomi. When these details resurfaced, Naomi responded firmly. She stated she was unaware of Epstein's crimes at the time of their association. She publicly condemned his actions as indefensible and expressed solidarity with victims, saying she stood with those harmed and was sickened by what he had done. She described him as one of countless people she had encountered at high-profile events throughout her career. Her position has remained consistent. Acquaintance does not equal complicity. But critics argue the paper trail, documented travel, event appearances, and ongoing contact after his conviction raises uncomfortable questions. Not accusations of criminal wrongdoing, but questions about judgment, awareness, and the nature of elite social networks where power and secrecy often overlap. And then another name entered the discussion. During legal proceedings, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate, reportedly described Naomi's relationship with Epstein as independent of her own. It was a brief, carefully worded remark, not an accusation, not an allegation of misconduct, simply a distinction. But in a case already surrounded by layers of secrecy, even a subtle distinction can fuel speculation. To some observers, Maxwell's wording suggested Naomi and Epstein communicated outside of Maxwell's mediation. To others, it was meaningless, a clarification with no deeper implication. Still, in the age of internet investigation, ambiguity is gasoline. The more undefined the statement, the more room it leaves for interpretation. Again, there is no direct evidence tying Naomi to Epstein's crimes. Yet in a narrative shaped by proximity and power, proximity alone becomes headline material. And this is where the story shifts from documented association to online theory building. Here's where things become more speculative and far more dangerous. Online conspiracy communities have built a theory suggesting Naomi's mentorship platforms, including her reality competition series The Face, could have functioned as recruitment fronts. To be clear, there is no verified evidence supporting this claim. It exists primarily in digital forums and viral threads. So why does the theory persist? Because Epstein himself had documented interest in modeling agencies. Emails showed him exploring connections within the fashion industry. Reports indicated he viewed modeling as a gateway into networks of young women aspiring to careers in fashion. When those documented facts sit alongside Naomi's position as a global modeling icon, plus her later appointment as a tourism ambassador in Kenya, conspiracy-minded observers start connecting dots. This is how the internet builds a narrative. Documented interest in modeling plus a supermodel with mentorship programs plus property in regions mentioned in online speculation equals an imagined pipeline. It's pattern recognition stretched into accusation. There's a vast difference between suspicious storytelling and proven misconduct. But once an online narrative takes hold, it becomes self-reinforcing. Every unrelated coincidence is reframed as confirmation. And then the emotional wild card enters the picture. Long before Epstein headlines, there was Paris. Tyra Banks has openly spoken about feeling intimidated, even frightened, by Naomi during her early modeling years. She described backstage tension in the 1990s, recalling moments where she felt unwelcome and undermined. The now infamous alleged comment, "You'll never be me," became symbolic of their rivalry. In 2005, Naomi appeared on the Tyra Banks show to publicly address the feud. Accusations were aired. Naomi denied saying the line. The two appeared to reconcile on camera, but the emotional residue lingered. Why does this matter now? Because personal rivalry adds texture to scandal narratives. If anyone has seen behind the curtain of fashion's most elite corridors, the casting rooms, the billionaire parties, the closed-door conversations, it would be Tyra. That doesn't mean she's confirming conspiracy, but her past fear and acknowledgement of Naomi's influence add a layer of human tension to a story otherwise built on documents and speculation. Power dynamics in fashion have always been intense, but when those dynamics intersect with global scandal, old rivalries suddenly feel more significant. And then comes another name tied to power, wealth, and later controversy. Naomi has long described Sean Combs, widely known as Diddy, as a brother. Public appearances, birthday tributes, affectionate captions on social media. Their bond was visible and unapologetic. In November 2023, she reportedly hosted a lavish celebration in his honor. When serious allegations later surfaced against him, online observers noticed that some photos of their celebrations quietly disappeared from her social media feed. That action, again, is not proof of wrongdoing. Many public figures distance themselves from controversy as a matter of PR survival. But to conspiracy-focused audiences, proximity becomes pattern. Epstein, powerful billionaires. Diddy, elite social circles. Scrubbed photos. Exclusive properties. Individually, each detail may be explainable. Together, they form a mosaic that fuels endless debate. So where does that leave us? With a supermodel whose life has always unfolded at the highest levels of wealth and influence, now caught in the crosshairs of internet-era scrutiny. Some see coincidence amplified by fame. Others see a carefully guarded network operating beyond public view. The truth may ultimately lie somewhere far less dramatic than either extreme. But one thing is undeniable. When power structures crack open, the names orbiting them are inevitably pulled into the light. And Naomi Campbell's name, for better or worse, continues to surface in conversations about the world behind the velvet rope. Whether that's mythology or something more complicated depends entirely on who's telling the story. If the earlier layers of this story are fueled by proximity and speculation, this next chapter is grounded in something far more concrete: paperwork. In 2005, Naomi Campbell launched Fashion for Relief, a high-profile charity initiative designed to raise funds for humanitarian crises around the world. The events were glamorous: couture gowns, A-list attendees, luxury auction items, and red carpets. The mission, at least on paper, was noble: mobilize the fashion industry to generate aid for disaster relief and vulnerable communities. For years, Fashion for Relief became synonymous with Naomi's philanthropic identity. It positioned her not just as a supermodel, but as a global humanitarian figure leveraging influence for good. And in elite circles, philanthropy is often the currency of credibility. But then scrutiny arrived. Regulatory findings later revealed that a significant portion of the charity's spending had gone toward administrative costs, luxury hotels, spa treatments, security, and event production, expenses that critics argued overshadowed the actual charitable disbursements. Investigations questioned whether funds were being managed properly and whether governance standards were being upheld. To be clear, mismanagement is not the same as criminal conspiracy. There were no findings suggesting Fashion for Relief was a trafficking front or a covert operation. The controversy centered on financial oversight and the proportion of money that ultimately reached intended causes versus what was spent on operational expenses. Still, perception matters. When a public figure is already facing online speculation about elite networks and questionable associations, documented financial irregularities, even administrative ones, amplify doubt. It becomes less about what was proven and more about what feels consistent to skeptics. In the court of public opinion, credibility isn't binary. It erodes gradually. Critics argue that philanthropy, especially in elite social circles, can sometimes function as image armor, a reputational shield that softens scrutiny. Supporters counter that organizing large-scale international events inevitably involves significant overhead, and that celebrity-led charities often struggle with complex compliance structures. Both arguments can coexist. But narratively, this moment matters because it shifts the conversation from rumor to record. It introduces something tangible. And once there's a documented controversy, even if unrelated to larger accusations, it changes how audiences interpret everything else. It's no longer just about who Naomi knows. It's about whether the systems surrounding her have always operated as transparently as they appeared. And that brings us to the bigger question. So what are we actually looking at? Is Naomi Campbell a misunderstood icon? A woman who rose to unprecedented heights in a brutal industry, built relationships across global power structures, and is now being retroactively pulled into scandals simply because she moved in elite circles? Or is she something more complex? A master networker whose influence has always extended far beyond the runway, someone who understands the architecture of power and navigates it with precision? There's no courtroom verdict tying her to criminal enterprise. There are no charges claiming she orchestrated anything illicit. What exists instead is proximity. Paper trails showing social overlap with powerful men later accused of crimes. A charity controversy that raised questions about oversight. Private properties so exclusive they inspire imagination. Rivalries that hint at unseen power dynamics. And then there's Tyra Banks. Why does her name keep resurfacing whenever the fashion industry's darker undercurrents are discussed? Why do old backstage stories suddenly feel relevant again? If anyone has witnessed the mechanics of modeling's highest tiers, the casting politics, the billionaires in the front row, the whispered alliances, it would be someone who stood beside Naomi at the height of it all. But even that doesn't equal accusation. It equals tension. The fashion world has always been a world of hierarchy, access, and silent gatekeeping. It thrives on exclusivity. It rewards proximity to power. And when scandals unravel powerful men, the orbiting names inevitably get caught in the gravitational pull. Maybe Naomi is simply one of many high-profile figures navigating elite circles where lines blur and optics complicate reality. Or maybe we've underestimated just how much influence can be wielded quietly, not through public declarations, but through relationships, introductions, and access. The truth may never be as dramatic as the internet's theories. It may also be more complicated than a simple dismissal. But here's what keeps the story alive. Every time another elite scandal surfaces, every time documents are unsealed, every time old rivalries are revisited, her name echoes just enough to keep people asking. Coincidence? Association? Strategic positioning? Or just the unavoidable consequence of living at the very top of a world built on power? That's the question that lingers, and the one no headline has fully answered yet.